Welcome back to the KDPG Sunday edition. This morning we are taking a look at the state of manufacturing in America, just as General Motors' assembly plant has stopped operations near Youngstown. And while some traditional manufacturing is facing challenges, from unfair trade practices to government regulations, a new kind of manufacturing is emerging in some areas. Last month marked the grand opening of Robert Morris University's new 3D printing and additive manufacturing laboratory at the Energy Innovation Center in the Hill District. How does it work? What does it produce? And how does it change the pace of learning for students to become trained as manufacturing engineers? We welcome Dr. Maria Kelovich, Dean of Robert Morris University's School of Engineering, Mathematics, and Science to the program. And back with us is Dr. Todd Porter, Professor and Chair of the Department of Economics at Youngstown State University. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us on the KDPG Sunday edition. So what is this Energy Information Center that you've opened?
Energy Innovation Center is now located at the Hill District, and it is really a center where academics, industry, and Pittsburgh community comes together. It is a workforce development hub, and it is operated by Gateway, and Bob Meader is the president of Energy Innovation Center. We are partners there, and as the university, we had an opportunity to open a 3D printing laboratory there. This is the laboratory in additive manufacturing, which is a new approach to manufacturing that industry takes. And this laboratory will have a dual purpose. It will certainly have an applied research, and we will collaborate with industry and academic partners, but also it will have an educational opportunities for people who are interested to get their skills in additive manufacturing. We will be offering certificates in our manufacturing, and just to mention that our university has the only accredited degree in the state of Pennsylvania in manufacturing engineering. We're very proud of that. Okay,
so this is looks like a multi-faceted approach to this. Let's break it down just a little bit here. And so I'm looking to try to get a job, and I think I want to be in manufacturing. This will train me to the newer aspects of manufacturing, which is what you're calling additive and 3D. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So this is a job training aspect?
This is a job training aspect that will prepare the workforce of the future, but also it is an opportunity for those folks to actually continue their education to the 2-year and 4-year degree using the same certificates as the start for their career in additive manufacturing.
So I could also get I guess what, Bachelor of Science of some,
yes.
in manufacturing. And you're saying that Robert Morris is the only one that is offering this at this
Correct.
time. Okay. Now, how many people can you help at one time?
Well, this particular facility will have a class of about 25 individuals, and we have received recently a grant from Governor Wolf. This grant really helps veterans and unemployed to retool their skills and in manufacturing and help them actually to enter the workforce of the future. So that's what it does.
So classes start Monday, and
That's right.
25 students. Undergraduate, advanced education, is it a mix?
That's a very good question. We have 2 certificates. One really is for people who are just high school graduates. And another certificate is for individuals who have a background in STEM disciplines. And so it is more advanced certificate, and they can take it as well. So there are 2 certificates that will be offered at Energy Innovation Center. And this Monday, as you said, we will be offering the one for people with just high school diploma.
What kind of demand is there, from your perspective, sitting in Youngstown, for what's happening here in Pittsburgh?
Okay. Well, additive manufacturing certainly is the wave of the future in terms of manufacturing. And I guess I should also add that, Youngstown State has the Center for Innovation in Additive Manufacturing, and actually is listed as a top 5 institution in that area, and we offer a bachelor's in manufacturing engineering. But now that I've done the plug, let me say, the big trend in manufacturing is moving from, these large plants that employ a lot of people into the additive manufacturing, which can be customizable, programmed, and uses many fewer individuals to produce the output. Just to throw out a couple numbers, if we go back to the 1950s, about 30% of the labor force was employed in manufacturing. That's now down to about 8–9%. But if you look at manufacturing as a percentage of the output that the economy is producing, gross domestic product, it's been quite stable around 11 to 12%. So, people say manufacturing's disappearing. That's not correct. Manufacturing jobs are disappearing, but the volume of output that we're producing has actually remained amazingly stable over the last 30 years.
What kind of industries are switching to this additive and 3D?
That's a very similar type of industries that employed this abstractive manufacturing. And I always give an example of Allegheny Technologies, ATI. They have a facility that really employs only a few folks at the computer controls, and the rest of the steel production is really automated. And there is a conveyor and robots that actually do the manufacturing processes there. However, it doesn't mean that there is no need for folks to be retooled and reskilled for certain type of professions related to manufacturing. So the workforce related to manufacturing will grow without any doubt. We always say that for 21st century, STEM professions and healthcare where the jobs will be.
I think, one of the big things on the horizon, of course, is artificial intelligence. And there's a lot of speculation. It's hard to say how worried you need to be. You have some people who predict that the number of jobs potentially replaced by artificial intelligence could range from 10% to 40% of the jobs currently in the labor force. So that may be one of the big challenges going forward in the next 20, 30 years. I mean, what do we do when so many jobs are eliminated, particularly in a relatively short time period?
Another question I would have in relation to this is that if, as you say, that the number of jobs available in the manufacturing, while manufacturing has a major output, the number of jobs affiliated with manufacturing has declined and will continue to be in this level. If I'm a major manufacturer of some product and I'm going to this, will I need a large plant to be able to do this? I mean, to have the amount of product distributed? I don't know if I'm making any sense to you or not, but
well, in my mind, I do not think that manufacturing jobs are declining per se. Maybe the current manufacturing jobs are declining, but the jobs in manufacturing that we'll need in the future and the skills that we need in the future, I actually think will be growing, and the need for that skilled professionals will be growing. As we all recall, the Allegheny Conference report said that our Pittsburgh region will have about 80,000 job shortage in the next 10 years, and that jobs will be in manufacturing, STEM, and other areas where we definitely need people with the new updated skills. What are the skills? We sometimes know the answer, but sometimes don't, because in 5 or 10 years, what the needs will be, we will think about that, and we will teach this workforce and teach those students the way they need to understand where we're going with the manufacturing.
We only have about 30 seconds to go here, so I'll ask this very quickly. How quickly can your universities adapt to what the workforce needs?
Well, we try to move quickly, but I think in some ways what a university tries to do is provide some basic skills in terms of learning how to learn, critical thinking skills and so forth, and then also maybe some skills that then lead into training that ultimately opens up doors for people.
All right. Well, we are out of time. Thank you both for being with us this morning on the KDPG Sunday edition. Sally and I will be back with some final thoughts in just a moment.